What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be going through the 2025 college football schedule for the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm going to predict every single game on their schedule and predict their record for 2025. But before we predict their schedule, let's just talk about this team a bit. And this is a Georgia team that I have a lot of optimism for next season. I would not be surprised to see Kirby Smart make his way back to the national title. I've seen a ton of experts ranking this Georgia team outside of the top 5, even all the way down close to number 10. And I think this is just the perfect season for Kirby Smart to come out of the shadows and for this Georgia team to be very dominant once again. And I actually believe it is very possible when I look at this roster. I think they are highly underrated. And I think they are going to have a very improved offense next season. They are top in the country in the SEC for return to production on offense. And this is an offense that really won the spring transfer portal window. They added Josh McCray, one of the top backs from the Big Ten, and he was actually player of the game in Illinois' bowl game last season. They add Ela Modozi, one of the best linebackers from the group of 5, a guy that is highly talented. But more importantly, the area that really makes me have high expectations for this team is their wide receiver room. This is a receiver room that has kind of been down the last season or two. But heading into next season, they add 2 very good receivers and Zachariah Branch, a guy that I think is waiting to explode. And they also add Noah Thomas, who had just under 1,000 receiving yards last season for Texas A&M. They return all their top wide receivers from last season, London Humphreys, and they also got Dylan Bell and Colby Young back, and they got a great weapon in Oscar Delp returning. They got a young stud at running back returning in Nate Frazier. The offensive line should also be very good with a lot of pieces back there. The only place that I have this big question mark on offense is Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. I don't know how good it'll be, but I really think this is a receiver room that is going to be much better and help out that offense. And defensively, this is a Georgia team that is always near the top of the SEC. And they have some young stars coming up. KJ Bolden should be a monster in the secondary. Jordan Hall and Gabe Harris Jr. should be really good up front. This should be a very good defense once again. I am really liking this Georgia roster and the additions that they have added through the portal. Kirby Smart definitely had one of his best seasons in the portal yet. And I am very high on this team. I'm expecting them to be better than the media puts them out to be. But without further ado, let's predict their schedule for 2025. They opened the season playing Marshall at home. Marshall is a team that lost a ton of talent. And they lost so much talent at the end of last season that they couldn't even play in a bowl game because of all of the opt-outs. Heading into next season will basically be a reset for this team. They have a new head coach in Tony Gibson, the NC State defensive coordinator, and they have a bunch of new faces. And I don't see this team putting it together in week 1, especially against a top team in the nation against Georgia. I think Georgia wins this game and moves to 1-0. They will then play Austin Peay at home, and I'm not really going to talk about this game that much. This will be an easy win for Georgia against a pretty bad FCS team in Austin Peay. So give me Georgia to beat Austin Peay and move to 2-0. Not long into the season, they will have an opener against Tennessee in conference play on the road. But Tennessee is a team that I think has too many question marks. Even at home against Georgia, I trust Georgia's talent over Tennessee. Tennessee was already nearly bottom of the SEC in return in production, and then they go on and lose a 5-star quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Georgia made a huge statement to show that they are still the dogs. I could see them blowing out Tennessee on the road. In fact, I'm going to predict them to blow out Tennessee, and I have them winning this game and moving to 3-0. Following the bye week, they play Alabama at home. Can Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs finally get over the hump and beat Alabama? I think Alabama is going to be a lot better next season. They add Ryan Grubb at offensive coordinator, and I think the offense is going to be more intact next season. This is an offense that returns good production. Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams is back. And they add a weapon at wide receiver and Isaiah Horton out of the portal. They have some young talent coming up. Ty Simpson is a former 5-star. I think he'll be just fine at quarterback. And let's not forget, this is an Alabama team that lost a ton of production and their head coach in Nick Saban just a season ago. So Kalen DeBoer and Alabama really had to adapt, and it was a tough season. But the defense is in great hands. I think they'll have a top defense in the SEC. And as long as the offense can play in rhythm, I think they'll be a very good team and probably in the playoffs. But on the road at Georgia following the bye week, this is a Georgia team that is going to be out for revenge against this Alabama team. And I think Georgia has the talent and roster to beat Alabama. and they have this game at home. Georgia hardly loses at home. So give me Georgia to win another tough game, moving to 4-0. Georgia will then play Kentucky at home, and I could see this game being a trap game. Georgia will be coming off of a couple of tough wins, and then they get Kentucky at home. And Kentucky is a team that I think is going to be better next season. And Georgia has struggled with Kentucky in recent memory, so nothing would surprise me in this game. I think Kentucky has an underrated quarterback in Zach Calzada. Dante Dowdle is a great pickup at running back as well. And I think they have really upgraded their receiving room, added guys like Kendrick Law, Troy Stylato, J.J. Hester. They returned Jamore Macklin and Fred Ferrier as well. I think the defense will be solid, and they add some big pieces up front like David Gusta and Marquise Grace Humphrey. I think it will be interesting to see how Kentucky bounces back. I think they have a better roster, but I'm taking Georgia to win this game and move to 5-0. Georgia will then play Auburn on the road, and the last time Georgia played Auburn on the road, they should have lost. And I honestly think this is a potential upset game for Georgia. Auburn is a team that should be better than average next season. I think they will break through and make a bowl game or better. I don't know about playoff contender, but they have the talent to go off, and I think this is a game at home where they could have talent go off. They have one of the most talented and young receiving rooms in the country, with sophomore Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thomas, and of course 5-star Cam Coleman. And then they just go on and add the top receiver out of the portal in Eric Singleton Jr. And they add a former 5-star quarterback in Jackson Arnold, a guy that I think will do better in Auburn's system. And Auburn has had a pretty consistent defense, and they have some talent. They've been recruiting at a top 10 level with Hugh Freeze. I think breakthrough is coming for Auburn. I don't know how good they'll be next season, but I'm going to say Georgia actually slips up in this game on the road and moves to 5-1. Georgia will then get Ole Miss at home, and this is an Ole Miss team that is just losing a lot of talent, near the bottom of the SEC in return in production. And they will really have to bounce back with a bunch of new transfers, and playing on the road at Georgia after Georgia's coming off of a loss is going to be brutal for Ole Miss. I don't think they have the quarterback to do it. Austin Simmons should be good, but he's still young. They have a bunch of transfer portal wide receivers coming in. They have guys with a lot to prove, and I don't know if they're going to be able to show out for this game on the road against Georgia. I think it will be a different story from last year. I think Kirby Smart will avenge the loss from last season. Give me Georgia to win this game big and move to 6-1. Following the bye week, Georgia will play Florida in Jacksonville, Georgia. This will be one of the most important and high-profile games of next season. This is going to be a game with a ton of eyes on it. I could see this being a game of two teams fighting for a playoff spot. Florida totally has the quarterback that can make a big showing in this game in DJ Lagway. He's a guy that I think is going to be even better next season. His numbers were not crazy in year one, but he didn't even start the full season. But he stepped up for that Florida team when they desperately needed him. If it was not for DJ Lagway, Billy Napier could have legitimately lost his job. This is a Florida team that returns a good backfield with Jaden Bogg and Jacoby Jackson. They have a solid receiving room and certainly a good offensive line, and the defense was showing some good things last season. It helped them in wins over LSU, Ole Miss, and a dominant win over Tulane. I do think Florida will be a good team next season, but I think Georgia is going to get this win. They're way too talented, and I think they're just going to be on a different level next season. I expect a bounce back from Kirby Smart in this team. So I think they get another tough win, even with a tough schedule. I have them winning some tough games. I have them moving to 7-1. The next game is Georgia playing on the road at Mississippi State. Mississippi State just does not have great expectations. They're not that talented. And they have a head coach with a lot to prove. He's an offensive mind, but the defense has been terrible with him. And I don't expect much things to change on the defensive side of the ball. Blake Shapen's returning at quarterback. He'll be solid, but he's not the super talented quarterback. I will say one area that gives this Mississippi State team hope is their backfield, with a great backfield on Fluff Bothwell and Devon Booth. I think this could be one of the most underrated backfields in the country, and maybe if they go off, they can compete for a bowl game. But I just really don't see it. They have a lot to prove. Give me Georgia to win this game and move to 8-1. Georgia will then get Texas at home. This is going to be another one of those showdowns, and Texas has not been able to beat Georgia. Georgia has definitely had Texas's number, and Georgia having this game at home makes me confident in them even more. I think Texas is just losing too much offensive talent. Texas is losing their offensive line and all of their top wide receivers from last season. Ryan Wingo is very talented and DeAndre Moore Jr. is back. But outside of those two, they have other guys that really need to step up and are unproven. And Ryan Wingo is still very young and with more to prove as well. I think the offense actually has some question marks. And I think Georgia will continue to beat Texas. They have this game at home. So I'm going to say Kirby Smart will continue to have Steve Sarkisian's number. I have them winning this game and moving to 9-1. Georgia will then play Charlotte at home. I'm not going to say much about this game. Georgia should be able to beat Charlotte. I will say, though, watch out for the Charlotte team in the group of 5. Maybe not next season, but they could become a contender in a few years because they got one of the top group of 5 coaches in Tim Albin, a massive pickup for this Charlotte team that has struggled in recent memory. But like I said, nothing much to say about this Charlotte team. I have Georgia winning and moving to 10-1. And then Georgia will end their season with Georgia Tech on the road. We know how this game went last season, and I could see Georgia Tech giving Georgia a hard time once again, especially when Georgia has had to go through a gauntlet of a schedule, and Georgia Tech is a team that I think is going to be very good. I could see Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game and being a playoff contender because they are nearly top of the ACC in return in production, and that includes returning a top quarterback in Haynes King, a very good back in Jamal Haynes. They add a 1,000-yard receiver from FIU and also a talented receiver in Dean Patterson, and they return one of their top wideouts from last season as well. They should also have a strong offensive line and a solid defense again, but I am going to take Georgia to win this game on the road. I'm expecting this team to clean up some of the holes they had on offense last season, and I think Georgia is going to be a more talented and faster and stronger team next season. Give me Georgia to win this game and move to 11-1. But anyways, there you have it. That is going to do it for my Georgia football prediction for 2025. I am actually very high on this team. I think a lot of people are stepping back on them too much and forgetting that they added some very good receivers in Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas, and they returned their top receivers from last season. Kirby Smart is an excellent head coach, and they have a lot more to work with next season. And I think there's no reason to believe that Georgia will not be a top 5 team in the nation with who they have. I'm going to say Georgia has a dominant 11-1 season. I can't pick them to go 12-0 because they have a gauntlet schedule, but I do say they can go 11-1. But you guys leave your prediction down in the comments below. But anyways, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing and also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.